Hi, this is Zoe, and Zoe alone. I'm currently just kicking it by myself in my room with no Chloe this week. Life is still lifing, and that just means that we can't record together, but you know what? You're still gonna get quality content. And last week you got to hear about Chloe and all of the things she loves about K-pop and P1 Harmony and how she got into K-pop, and this week I'm gonna be taking over. And I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about the glory, the luxury, the privilege, and the honor that it is to wake up black every single morning. So one of the cool things about having best friends is that you guys tend to be on the same wavelength. And with Chloe, we are on the same wavelength. Every question she asked me for this episode is a question that I already had written down. So it's going to work out really well. But yeah, I think I'm just going to jump in. So I grew up in Orange County. I was, born and raised in Southern California. I moved around a lot. So I was in San Diego, Santa Clarita, and Simi Valley, and then Orange County was where I ended up. And I did a lot of my, young years from, second grade, I want to say, to high school. So a lot of, your coming of age years where you really come to know who you are as a person. And that's where that all happened, was in a very predominantly white area of California. I don't think I saw a lot of other black people until I did some college courses at a local college. And I was just baffled. I was so shocked because I think even talking about it in the episode about our preferences and people we liked, I even said, I just grew up not having a lot of people of color around me. And that really did a lot. The lack of people of color around me, just people of color in general. There was not a lot of experience for me to just dive into my own culture. One, because my biological mother didn't tell me what my lineage was. I didn't know where my family came from. So I just knew I was black, and that was all. So I couldn't go and find groups of people that were okay, this is a Nigerian group. We're going to be diving into Nigerian culture. I didn't even know I was Nigerian until the beginning of January. And so I think that was really hard. It also made me feel like I was very underqualified when I would go into social groups or situations where I was surrounded by black people. I felt very whitewashed, and that's not a bad thing, I don't feel, but I feel like I just felt like I didn't belong. And because of how, I guess, whitewashed I was and am, I just felt really uncomfy. And it was almost like I felt uncomfortable because they were there. I felt so much more comfortable being around lots of white people because that was so normal for me. Being around a lot of black people was almost scary, not in the sense of unsafe feeling, which I don't want people to get that. I don't want that to be how that's interpreted. It was more so I don't fit in here. I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's like when you're a new student at school. You're just I don't understand why I'm here. Can I sit here with you guys at this table? I just didn't feel like I belonged. And it wasn't until I actually moved to Australia where I started really feeling like I made sense, because I met other people who actually had very similar upbringing in the sense of they were black in a predominantly white area, or if they were, raised in a white family, or things like that, where they were black, but the situations or the circumstances or the locations where they were living were not catering to us as people, or not catering, but more so just it wasn't designed for us. And so, yeah, it was really weird. It was really interesting. But yeah, I think I also kind of thought that I was not less black, but just not black enough. And that is one of the not so great situations when you're black and you grew up in a white area. You feel, at least I felt, that I was too black for the white kids and not black enough for the black kids. I think that's an experience a lot of mixed kids might feel, that they feel too one way for the other group and not enough for the other. I would go into white spaces and get asked really like stereotypical questions of like, do you like fried chicken? Do you eat watermelon? And I also like don't really like chicken. I don't like the texture. It freaks me out. And I would tell someone that and they'd be like, you're what? You don't like chicken? Like you're black. And I was like, okay. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And I would just be like, okay, cool. All right, moving on. And I just didn't know what that meant because no one should have to explain to their kids what the stereotypes are and how to react to them when the stereotypes are like spoken over you as a person. But yeah, I grew up in a private school. I was a private Christian school kid. So there was a lot of things that I would do that were like, I couldn't control it. Like at high school dances, I would shake my hips. Your girl would twerk and I would get in trouble. But the other girl that was, I don't know, white or more slim rather than curvy, she would do the same thing and she wouldn't get in trouble. And it was just like, I can't control that my body is curvy. I can't control that this is just my genetics. I can't control that, but I get in trouble for it. I never had problems with hair, which I'm really grateful for. I never had a teacher get mad at me for having braids. They always were like super like, wow, your braids are so gorgeous. I really like your hair. Like that was always what I received. I never received any negative comments about my hair. But I did experience a lot of just people touching my hair. And I don't think I realized till I was much older that that's not okay. You don't just go up to people and just start touching their hair. Like, that's just kind of goofy and messed up. And I don't care if you touch my hair if I say you can. It's when I don't let you. It's the common sense of just ask. I had a friend in my class who loved her to pieces. She didn't know how to braid, period. Couldn't just do like a regular 3-strand braid. And so I gave her I said, here, use 3 strands of my braids, use 3 braids and try that. It's easier. And she learned how to braid all my hair in math class. But just things like that, where if someone were to just do that to my hair without them asking and then just doing it, I would have lost my shit. But I didn't know that was wrong. Now I know it's wrong. And I think that that's really unfortunate. I experienced a lot of things like that where I didn't realize those things were wrong, or just inappropriate, where we would be talking about slavery or Huckleberry Finn or Tom Sawyer or just books that reference the N-word, and kids would look at me and I'm like, can I help you? I'm like, I'm a 6th grader. We don't need to make me feel more uncomfortable than I already feel. This is a highlighted month of things that have happened to me and my people, and I don't really appreciate you looking at me when we talk about lynching. That's not cool. And it was really hard. I had no idea why it hurt so much. I couldn't tell you at that age because it was so regular, consistent every time in history class. In English, when we did the reading for the books, where teachers would be like, this is a word that's in the book, but we're not going to say it because it's not inappropriate. I'm like, girly, you just told the kids to not say a bad word. They're going to be saying the bad word. Luckily, the kids didn't say the bad word, which was great. They didn't say the word, because that would have been really uncomfortable for me. But in general, when it came to just the N-word in itself, for me, that was so hard because I was raised being told it's not okay to say. And no one said, well, Zoe, you can say it. You're allowed to say that, but other people can't. I didn't realize that till high school. And then I started realizing hey, that's not for anybody but me or people that look like me. My whole softball team in high school, we did a travel ball tournament in Colorado, and I was on the bus and my 4 friends in the back were like, Zoe, are you good? I'm like, no, I don't appreciate this whatsoever. It was Kanye about my guy's name was in Paris. And I remember getting up, telling my coach, I was like, hey, I don't appreciate all of them saying this because it's not for them to say. I do not feel comfortable and I do not like it. And she said, well, I can't control what they do. I was like, bitch, you're their coach. You can most definitely control what they say and what they do. They listen to you because you are the coach. And it was hard. Like that in itself was very hard, because I was like, you don't care about me in that way? You don't want to protect me? You don't care? And I think that was just really, really rough, because yeah, I think it was, I held that coach in a very high regard because she really like cared about me. So I thought, and then didn't take care of me in a space where I specifically asked for help. And then didn't do anything to protect me. And I think that was really, really messed up. But yeah, I think that was an experience. I had a lot of experiences in sports specifically that were really challenging. I had a coach, my high school varsity coach. I asked him why I didn't make varsity. I said, hey, I don't quite understand why I didn't make varsity this year. And he said, you're good enough to make varsity. You're in fact better than some of the girls, but you do not fit the look. And at the time, and, you know, still now, I had a lot of issues with my body image and just like my image, insecurities and stuff. And I thought that that's what he was talking about, that I was too big or whatever. And then I look back now at what that team looked like, and it was all white girls, and I want to say 2 or 3 Hispanic girls, and that was it. And a lot of those girls who were Hispanic had parents that were heavy in politics at the school, or really important members that were like heavily supporting the team. And my family was not. And I think it was just one of those things that I had to look back on a few years later. I think it was 2020 that I realized, oh my God, it wasn't because I wasn't skinny or slim or petite or whatever. It was solely because I just didn't look the right way. It was because I was Black. And I don't think, and I do think growing up in Orange County, racism was not as like in your face. It was sly comments. It was really like subtle, microaggressions, very like, hey, like my daughter is not allowed to play with your daughter. You know, or like my mommy said we can't be friends. Why? I don't know. We just can't. And just things like that were super little, but obviously had a huge effect on me, but they weren't super in your face, like blatant racism. It wasn't blatant like that. It was really little, weird looks. God forbid I want to buy a t-shirt at Target and I'm getting a weird look because I'm holding it up to my body to see if it fits. Like, just like things like that. I never experienced blatant racism until I moved, where I was driving my dad's truck, listening to Drake, and some lady, her kid, ran in front of the car. I hit the brakes. I want to clarify. I stopped my car. And the lady is like, son, stop. What are you doing? And she starts yelling at the kid. And I'm like, go ahead. I have my foot on the brake. Like, you're good to go. Like, go for it. And she just looks at me and gives me the dirty look as if I was the idiot that ran in front of the car. Sorry. And then as they cross the street, they get into their driveway and goes, these stupid Black people. And I was like, Miss girl, I don't think I ran in front of a car. That was your kid. But it was awful. I was full of just like rage. And I'm not a very angry person. I've never felt frustration quite like that before in my life. I don't think I can say that I have ever experienced more frustration or anger and rage in my life. It was awful. I got to my friend's house, parked the car, and just started sobbing because it was just so awful. I was like, girl, what did me being Black have to do with anything in that situation? Your grandson, nephew, whoever, ran in front of a moving vehicle. I think you need to talk to your son about, street etiquette. But it was awful. It was awful. One of the questions that Chloe asked that I think is really, really good that I didn't even think about, is, do I think I'd be different if I grew up in Chicago? Because I was born in Chicago. I was adopted at birth. And I think, honestly, yeah, I think about this a lot. I don't think about it in this sense a lot, but I think about it where, like, I think about, like, if my birth mom would have kept me, like, what my name would have been, or, like, things like that. But I think if I were to have grown up in Chicago, I don't know. I feel like I'd be a very different person. I think California really shaped me. Like my love for the water, my love for the beach specifically. I'm the idiot that goes as far as possible until the lifeguard comes. But yeah, I think that really would have done something different. I think that the way I speak would be different. I think, because slang terms are different in California, the accent is different in California. I think I'd be a very different person. I think the fact of who my parents are also had a really big factor on who I am today. The way that I was raised, I think that obviously has a huge effect, but I think the fact that it would be a different person raising me, would be a huge, huge difference. Yeah, I think it'd be really interesting. I think that honestly, I don't know. I think that that's something that I might have to come back to at some point, and answer. But yeah, I think that honestly, it would just be very different. Something that I want to talk about that is very weird. And I think it's really strange. I think it's only if you've traveled to places either in Africa or where you're not the minority, you experience this. I experienced this twice. I've been to Uganda twice and I loved it. It was amazing. I went with my parents and our church when I was 13, I think. I was still in middle school, so 12 or 13, I want to say. And, you can't bring open water bottles on the plane. And my stupid ass had 2 open water bottles in my bag. And I had 2 open water bottles. I had 2 granola bars. I had a bunch of shit in my bag that I should not have had. They moved the water bottles and the candy and the food around to look under for normal things you'd be concerned for. Put the water bottles back in my backpack, closed it, and went, okay, you're good. My mom and dad had water bottles. They pulled that out real quick, put it in the trash can, and I was like, is this what privilege feels like? I was baffled. I was shook. I never experienced that before, where I'm the one getting the oh, it's fine. You're fine. No worries. You're good. You're good. It's usually me that's like, what are you doing? Why do you have that? I've never been the one where people go, we should have given it to you. You could have carried it for us. So when we were doing that coming into Uganda. Leaving Uganda, everyone gave me all their water bottles. And it was fine. There was no problems to be had. And then I just returned the water bottles back to my family and my friends, and everything worked out great. And it was so weird. I was like, is this what it's like? It was almost like, I don't want to call it reverse racism because I feel like that's wrong. There's probably a word for it that I'm not using correctly, but I think it's just the fact that I was no longer the minority. My family was the minority. And I was the majority. And it was such a strange feeling. And same thing happened when I went back to Uganda at 18 with a bunch of friends with on a missions trip with our team. And when we needed something and we knew our contacts, the people we were staying with, they were like, hey, we've had this experience. I say, do what you think is best. And I was like, guys, give it to me. I will do the talking. I was like, trust me, I will do the talking and everything will be fine. I did all of this talking, and I'm not even from Uganda. I'm a California girl born and raised. And it was the fact that I was Black that we were able to do whatever it was. And I was just so shocked. I was so shocked. I was so confused, and I was like, this is what it's like. This is what my parents experience. But yeah, I think I've had a lot of really interesting experiences while traveling being Black. I have had, your stereotypical conversation where you're the only other Black girl and there's one Black guy and you guys are hanging out because you're friends. And someone goes, hey, so are you and so-and-so siblings? Oh, no, we aren't. Oh, so then you're dating. No, we aren't. Oh, so what are you? The one you missed. We're friends. And that tends to happen pretty often. And it's so weird because I'm like, are all of the white people brothers and sisters? Are all y'all dating? Is this a game of siblings or dating? I also think I've seen it with other people of color, though, too. But it's just super interesting, honestly, the whole thing. Just being Black as a whole is an experience and a half. I think some things that I'm definitely struggling with, I don't know. I think I still struggle with the going into Black spaces and feeling inadequate and feeling like I don't belong there. There's so many things, like, I will watch, like, TikToks of, like, growing up in a Black household. I'm like, could it be me? Or, like, growing up Black. And I was like, yeah, that's growing up Black in a Black household, not growing up Black in a white household. There's so many things that, like, I would never do. But it's because of how I grew up. And there's so many things that I absolutely would do, but it's how I grew up. But there's also a lot of things where, like, people will be like, oh, so do your family, like, do they not be seasoning their food? I'm like, girl, the seasoning cabinet we have in my home is big. She's packed. Like, there's a lot of things like that where the stereotypes of white families do not apply to my home at all. And I didn't have anything to do with it. They were already doing that stuff before I got here. But yeah, I think it's just interesting. But yeah, I think that's one of my biggest struggles and biggest insecurities and biggest, just when it comes to me as a person, is the benefit of, knowing my entire ancestry is super rad, because I can look into the culture of those places and be really excited about, like, I can go there and, like, really dive into that. But the thing is the lack of Black people where I've been living my entire life. I feel so awkward when I just am around them, around my own people. I'm just like, yeah, okay. And it's almost like a flustered, uncomfortable. It's like when you're talking to a cute person and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna puke. Like, it's one of those things. It's like that, where I'm just nervous. I'm just a bundle of just, like, panic. But yeah, I think that's something that I've been working through in therapy, and just being aware of the fact that that's something that makes me uncomfortable, and then forcing myself into situations where I'm surrounded allows me to remember, like, I'm enough the way that I am. And when you surround yourself with things that, if you surround yourself with people you are, you're going to become that person. And so I'm just finding ways, as much as I can, living in the middle of boondock hoo-ha, I'm trying my best to find places that are catering to me and my folk. And in that space, rather than being nervous or, like, scared I'm going to do something dumb, I'm just going to continue to be myself and take the opportunities as opportunities to just figure out, like, the person that lies beneath almost. But yeah, I'm just really grateful. I don't know, it feels like that's the theme of Black History Month this year, where we're all just real pumped to be Black right now. Like, I was scrolling on TikTok before I started recording, and everyone's like, if you woke up Black this morning, make some noise. Yeah. I don't know, we're just excited this month. Like, this month, specifically this year, we are just jazzed to be Black. And I'm so unbelievably here for it, because we deserve it. We deserve it. And I think I did a lot talking about, like, the crap parts of what it's been to be Black, but I've not talked about the glorious beauty, the luxury, the privilege, as the title is, the privilege. The privilege is the fact that you're Black. End of discussion. I have never, ever, like, I have not liked myself for a very long time, and I've also not thought I was pretty for a very long time. I went through a lot of insecurities, and now that I can look at it, it came from a space of not being represented, and also just not being appreciated. What I looked like was not appreciated for a very long time in media, in just my normal, regular day-to-day settings. And once I realized that I just needed to break the cycle of what society was saying was beautiful, which that entire topic is a bunch of bullshit. I think people are beautiful, period, end of discussion. And the beauty of being a Black woman is being a Black woman. And I could end the topic. I could end the podcast there. There's something so cool about the history of who we are. The struggle was insane. And you can't even ignore that. If you ignore that, you're cuckoo bananas. The struggle, the loss, the pain, the generational hurt is so unbelievably tangible and real to this day. Because when you break it down, and I think this really hurts a lot of feelings, it was not that long ago. Y'all, it has not been that long since this was happening. And it is still happening. But the resilience and the joy. I love TikTok. I know I talk about her a lot, but I love her. I love to see the Black boy joy. It's my favorite. It makes me so happy. Like, I will be on TikTok and you'll just see a bunch of just like young Black men having a good old time, giggling and being all goofy. And it just makes me so happy. And I just love seeing all the gorgeous Black women on my For You page doing the most. And I get all excited. And I don't know. And there's not a word to describe how much I love being Black now that I've realized what just what it is. I don't know. I can't even put words into it. I always would be like, haha, I get to go in the pool first. I don't got to put sunscreen on. My mom would get mad at me and make me put sunscreen on. But like, it was things like, just like little things. There's even like the little things that are like, might be stupid. I'm really grateful that I have good skin and great teeth and pretty lips and a cute little nose. And like, there's just the little things that I never, if you would have asked high school me, she would have been like, I like that I have rhythm. And that's where I would have left it. And now I think the fact that I'm older and I've worked through a lot of my crap, I can appreciate just like the person I am so much more. But yeah, for any Black listeners, I don't know how many of y'all there are, but like, hi, happy Black History Month. I hope this month you feel that you are important and that you are valued and that you have so much to offer, and that if you're like me and you grew up in a predominantly white area, or your family is white, or whatever, it doesn't make you any less Black, and it doesn't make you any less anything. Take the time this month, or whenever, but like, I'm taking time this month to just dive into the culture that I'm now finding out that I have. Like, I've been cleaning at my job, and I've only been listening to Nigerian Afrobeats, and when I tell you cleaning is 10 times more fun, it's 10 times more fun. But like, just do things like that, like the little things that you might not even think to do. It's terrifying. I can't lie to you and be like, oh, it's the best decision I ever made in my life, and no problems. It was terrifying. Like, I cannot lie and say that it was easy. I got the email that it was complete. I sobbed for at least 2 hours. Just sobbed, broke down, cried. Have not cried like that, I think, ever. It was the fear of not knowing and the fear of knowing. It was the fear of finding out something that was different than what I had believed for 22 years. Yeah, it was terrifying, but it was so worth it, because now whenever I see something that's like Nigerian or Congolese, I can get super pumped and be like, oh my gosh, I'm Congolese. Oh my gosh, I'm West African. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, I can get excited about it because that's my culture, and I can get excited and be pumped about it because I am a part of that. No matter how big of the percentage I am Congolese in comparison to how much like percentage of Nigerian I am, which is Nigerians higher up on the percentage, but I can get excited because regardless of how much, that's me. And I never had that. I was so afraid to get excited about different cultures because I didn't want to be excited about the wrong thing. If you've never taken an ancestry test and you want to, I recommend it. If you're adopted like me and you just don't know. But yeah, I'm just really pumped. I hope that y'all like this episode. It was definitely more heavy. But yeah, I think it was fun. And if you guys have any questions for me specifically, I'll have like a little send message thing on the post on Instagram. And yeah, just say whatever. I'm so down to answer questions. Never feel like you can't ask me like questions about my adoption, about all that kind of stuff, because I love talking about it. But yeah, thanks all for listening, and I hope you guys have a really great rest of your day. And happy Black History Month.